Hi. So I have my notebook and it has all my hopes and dreams and wishes for this gardening season in it. All through the winter I've been making little plans and notes and taking inspiration, watching gardening shows or just walking around or looking at pictures, just notes and hopes for what I want in the 2025 gardening season. You know, we always hope, we make grand plans, and it's nice to have that hope so that you're working towards something, but it does not always work out, trust me. And I think any gardener, any creative person who's done any project knows, you hope and you dream and you plan. It doesn't always work out, but at least you're hoping towards something. And so I'm making my planting list. It's a little late. It's the third weekend in March already. But that's okay. You can start anytime. I don't mind starting now. But I do have to start on my plan so that I can start my seed sowing. So the planting plan I have this year is a lot more structured. I've moved into this garden, this house 4 years ago now. So this is my fourth season in this garden, my fourth growing season in this garden. It's changed a lot. At the very, very beginning, it was a patch of grass really and lawn in the front and in the back. But lots has happened since we moved in. I've planted two very big gardens, one in the front and one in the back, but I'm still evolving and I still want to add a few things this year and change a few things up.
Hi, baby. You're such a good boy.
When I am thinking about a planting plan, the things that I really think about are my values, right? Every gardener has their own values. For me, the reason why I garden is that I think about gardening as if I'm being in service to nature. That's my goal. I want to make sure that I am being a good participant because as humans, we forget that we're part of nature. We are animals as well. We are part of nature. Often we look outside from our homes, and because we build our structures so much more different than other creatures, we feel distanced from it because we are in our homes, in our walls, and we don't feel the elements necessarily. But we're creatures as well, and I want to make sure that I'm being a good partner and I'm not imposing myself more on nature and taking more from it than I'm giving back to it. So I want my gardens to be in service to all of the other creatures I'm sharing nature with. And you're not just sharing nature with, plants and squirrels and, the occasional fox that comes by. You're also sharing it with the insects and the microorganisms that live in the soil. And good gardening starts with that kind of concept, I think. If you have healthy soil, you'll have healthy gardens. But a lot of the ways we garden means that the soil isn't healthy, so we try to boost it with fertilizers and whatnot, but that creates a never-ending cycle. I'll talk more about that another time, but for me, my goal and my values is to be in service of nature. So how do I pick plants to do that? Well, every plant I put in my garden has to have a purpose. It can't just be because I think it looks pretty. I mean, it can look pretty, but also have a purpose. So all my plants need to have either food for things in nature, shelter for things in nature, or can be part of a cycle where it can provide, let's say, little bits and pieces birds can use in their nests or different things like that. Or a place that the hares running around or the prairie chickens running around this area can find shelter from the sun if it's a little too hot. And also plants that will feed the soil so that the microorganisms in the soil can create a healthy habitat and create healthy soil, period, to maintain the plants and the animals. It's just a big cycle, and I want to make sure that I'm living my value and making sure that the plants I pick are those things. Another important value is that our climate is changing, right? We know and we understand that. So I need to make sure that I'm picking plants that are sustainable and can support themselves. My garden is kind of like, not really the Lord of the Flies, but there is an element of survival. If you can't survive on your own in my garden, you can't stay. And my garden has taught me that in various iterations over the years. Everything needs to be self-sustaining to a degree. I know that my exposures, even though I have a north-facing garden to the front and a south-facing garden to the back, The north-facing garden actually gets more sunlight because I'm in a small bungalow, a short bungalow, I should say. And because it's a short bungalow, the sun in the summer tracks high enough so that 90% of my garden in the front is in full sun, which means that it is baking in the sun all day. My garden to the back, even though it's south-facing, I have a lot of trees back there. So most of it is shade or dappled shade. It's more of a woodlandy type of area. I have one area that's a bit more sunny. But things have to be able to sustain themselves. So out front, I have drought-tolerant plants. Some are native to this area, but to create and to increase biodiversity, I also have some non-native plants out front as well. Okay, so talking specifically about the groups of plants I want to acquire. Number one, in the first group, we have the plants that I'm going to divide. Those are plants I'm just going to get for free because I already have them in my garden and they need to be divided anyways. So I'm going to guess I am going to get maybe 10 to 12 free plants, and I'm talking good sized plants, like plants that I would probably pay $10 for. I'm going to be able to get those for free this summer just from dividing certain things in my garden, which is fantastic. The second group of plants growing from seed, and then the third group of plants are structure plants, so I'm going to be buying all of those. I'm giving myself a budget around $1,000, and that's 1,000 Canadian dollars. I saved up over the winter to be able to buy these. What I want are more shrubs, more evergreens, and also more just deciduous trees, period, in both the front and the back. I'm kind of tree crazy. I love planting trees. I personally believe that I'm living my value by being in service to nature, by planting as many trees and shrubs as I can. And there really, for me, is just something magical and romantic and special about a tree. The trees we inherited in our backyard here, we inherited these 3 beautiful trees. 2 of them are apple trees, and one of them is this gigantic, gorgeous lilac tree. And somebody planted these like 40 years ago. And here we are today, and we get to enjoy them. And I guess the saying is, to plant a tree is to hope in the future, I think is the saying. And I just find that really beautiful. It's like your legacy lives on in a tree. You know, I plant a tree. I don't care if anybody knows that I planted it, but eventually someday another person, another creature, birds, whatever it might be, are going to be able to enjoy that tree. And long after I'm gone, that tree will be there. So I want to plant a lot more trees. Now to the actual planting list. I've been making some plans and ideas over the winter, like I said. I do have some thoughts about what will work and what won't work. My overall color scheme, especially for the front, is mostly purples and kind of magentas, splashed in with a little bit of blues. I really kind of like that, but overall very verdant and green. So the planting list for the front is really, really simple. I'm looking at a lot of liatris. I'm looking at a lot of agastache. I'm looking at a lot of monarda, which is native to this area. So is the agastache. And I'm looking at a lot of achillea. So they're different shapes and different forms. Some are spiky, some are flat-topped like the achillea. But all in all, they have a purpose in nature. The pollinators absolutely love them. They create beautiful shelter, especially in the winter. The structure I leave in the winter will create shelter for the prairie chickens and the hares that come in and they burrow and they nest in there in the winter. And everything just looks beautiful year round. Another thing to remember about a planting list is that I want to have blooms or structure or some kind of purpose for the plants all year round. So I'm not just thinking about things blooming really, really well in August. I want to make sure that when the first insects wake up in, let's say, May, there's something for them to eat or to use. Then I go through the season with, from May, I go to janvier, février, mars, avril, mai, juin, I had to say it in French, June, so that there's something blooming in June, and then July, and then August, and then September. And then by the first frost sets in October, at least there will be habitat and shelter. So there are either flowers blooming for food, structure for shelter, and in the winter also shelter, and also some seed heads for food, for birds or anything else that wants to eat it. And also some beautiful winterest for me to look at and for us to look at out of the house when we look out of the windows. So that's a lot to think about, and you might not get it right away, but as time goes on and you're thinking about your garden and you're thinking about how to put things together, you will start to think a little bit more clearly and critically about things. And some things you'll just get one day and be like, oh yeah, that's a good idea. I should try to do that. But what's more important, like I said, is living your values in your garden, because it is your garden. It doesn't matter what it looks like to other people. A value you have might be for it to look nice, but that shouldn't be the only purpose and the only goal. Your garden is your garden, and you have to be proud of it, and you have to live with it and put your values into your garden as much as you can, okay? The first category of planting, I can't get started on yet because it's still too cold here. It's only the end of March. Things are still sleeping outside. I do not want to be throwing bugs away. My garden, I keep tidy, but not too tidy, because nature really isn't tidy, right? Nature doesn't go around with a leaf blower blowing everything off of the paths and like cutting all the perennials down. Nature has its own functions, so everything has a purpose in nature. So dead grasses become habitat for things. Moths and other insects lay their eggs and rear their young in these dead bits of vegetation. And so when you go ahead and things overwinter, they're sleeping in these things. So when you go ahead and you cut down everything in the fall, you're actually removing habitat for things, and so they have no place to sleep. But then in the spring, when you start cleaning up too soon, things are sleeping. And so then you're actually taking all of these beautiful insects and things you need in your garden, and you're just throwing them away, which is kind of tragic and really sad to think about. Could you imagine if while you were sleeping in your bed, somebody came and picked up your home and put it in the garbage? That would not be great. So I'm going to wait for the first group. I can't divide anything yet because it's still a little too early for that. But I can start sowing my seeds, which I'm really excited about. It's a little late, but I'm still excited to start. I am just going to write a really quick list here, 3 columns with my 3 categories, and then I'm heading to the seed store. Okay, so the list includes, in column number 1, to divide this summer, we have Salvia nemorosa caradonna. Then we have Achillea. I'm going with the terracotta variety because that's my favorite. Then we have a penstemon. This particular penstemon, I don't remember the exact variety of it, but it's something that grows in a zone 3, like where I live. Then we have echinacea. I believe this one is Echinacea purpurea, but I could be wrong about that. And then the seeds I will be sowing this summer are Monarda, Liatris, Agastache, Sweet Pea, a white variety, and then Cosmos. And then in the purchase list, I am going to go with some more Amur maples. Then we have Sorbus, which is a mountain ash. Some people call it a rowan tree. These are really wonderful for the birds in particular because the bright red and orange berries in the winter are a good food source for them as well. Then we have Cornus. I'm going to go with a Prairie Fire variety or the Sericea variety. Cornus is dogwood. So the Sericea variety is native to my area here, but the dogwoods are really great. I have quite a few of them around. I think before I buy any more dogwoods though, I'm going to take a look at what I already have to see if maybe I want to move some things around before I buy any more dogwoods. And then for my berry patch, raspberries, and then also some strawberries. So they didn't have everything I was looking for, which is totally okay. I was able to get 2 things. So the first one is the giant hyssop. I'm really excited about this one because I love this plant. The pollinators love this plant. And I've grown it from seed semi-successfully. It does grow very well. It's a good doer as far as germinating. This is native to this area. It's from the Native Plant Society in my area. It's a good doer as far as germinating. However, after getting, this happened 2 seasons in a row, after getting some really big substantial plants, the die-off was quite massive. I lost, probably both seasons, I lost 90% of what I grew. And I ended up with maybe like, if I got 10 plants every season, I only ended up with like 1 or 2-ish, which wasn't great, but I think there are a couple of things at play there. Number one, like I was saying, the front area is so open. I'm building up kind of like a shelter belt of more structured plants with trees and shrubs, but it's still young, and so the wind just comes rushing through that area. And so it really does, I think, clip things quite heavily. And in the winter, that really cold wind comes rushing through, and it also makes things quite cold. And also the soil, I'm building up the soil. So the house was built, I think, in the 50s or the 40s. We are only the second owners to live there. And so the family who owned it before us, they just had it as lawn the entire time, from what I can understand. So the lawn was really compacted, and the soil is not very healthy at all, because grass is really just a wasteland. It doesn't really serve a purpose for many organisms, most organisms. You could sit and look at your grass for quite a while, and you would be hard pressed to find things, I think, actually using it functionally, because it's not really a purposeful plant within the full cycle of plants and microorganisms in the soil having this symbiotic relationship and giving each other things. Grass isn't really fulfilling all of the needs of the microorganisms. All that to say is that I think the soil is just a little unhealthy, and I'm working on that so that hopefully these plants do a good job. Hopefully. I have high hopes for this. The next one is the Liatris. So this variety is Meadow Blazing Star. This is native to this area here. And I have purchased Liatris in the past, but it's a more cultivated variety. It has a more neat form. It's got the tall, long, skinny spikes. It's really, really gorgeous. It looks at the same time very robust and sturdy, but then also has this like, oh, I wonder what that is kind of plant to it, or kind of look to it. And it's purple and beautiful and gorgeous and everything I love in a plant. And also drought tolerant, which is really, really good. But that was a cultivated variety. I wanted to get the native variety to grow, that naturally grows in this area, for a bit more resiliency with the climate in this area. The one thing that I really wanted to get that I couldn't find here is the sweet pea. So I think earlier I was saying I'm not crazy about white flowers in my scheme. The pale flowers, I feel more, joy when I see like a nice deep saturated color in the garden. But white flowers are part of living my value in the garden, in the sense that white flowers are excellent for nighttime pollinators. And I can't forget the nighttime pollinators, the moths and other things that come out at night that are also looking for food. And so the white flowers reflect the light at night, which means the pollinators have an easier time finding them. So I'm setting aside my own desire here for my garden, and I'm thinking really critically about how nature is going to use it. And at nighttime, I can't just let my garden be not useful. I need to think about that too, if I'm truly living my value here. And so I'm setting my own desire aside, and I'm looking for a white flowering plant, but also looking for a plant that I think that I would be happy with as well. So this white flowering sweet pea, I forget the name, I forget the variety of it, but I've heard that the odor is beautiful. So Lathyrus, that's a Latin name, I forget the other epithet that comes with it, but basically it's very beautiful smelling. And sweet pea is fantastic because the more you cut them, the more you get. Cutting them and bringing them into the house as a cut flower is really exciting to me. The thought of having that beautiful scent in the house is really fun. So I have some old seed. I've tried to grow this in the past. It did not work. It's because I didn't understand necessarily that germinating sweet pea is a little bit different, and growing it rather is a little bit different, not just germinating it. It needs a longer root run. So the container I was trying to grow it in was a little too short. I need to grow it in like a container that has a longer space for root run. And this year I'm actually going to try growing them in toilet paper rolls, like spent toilet paper rolls, because I had heard somebody say or suggest it's a great thing for sweet pea because it gives you a lot of space. So we'll try it, right? I have nothing to lose and everything to gain, which is one of the fantastic things about gardening, because really the stakes are so low for such amazing reward, right? So I am going to try the old seed I have. Fingers crossed it actually works.